Hello and welcome back to Worlds Together Builders. We're continuing with the map today. We're going to take a look at doing some detailing. I've done a lot of work between videos because it was a lot of the same, and we'll go over some of that, and then we've got some more detailing to do. And once we get done with that, we're going to start exporting the maps in a couple different formats because we're going to go do some fun overlays and stuff for them. But that'll be next episode. This episode, let's look at finishing up the details on this map. So first of all, I went through and I did a lot more work on blending the colors out, and that's not terribly difficult. It's just more of the same, but you just keep dropping the brush opacity down and working further and further out, increasing the brush size, and just working the colors out and together. I added some bluish white down here because it wasn't very snowy, so I wanted it to be a little more snowy. Went around and put all the trees in, so you can see I used a couple different kinds of trees. Up here I used more of an evergreen type tree, so you see those evergreens there, and then we had the more arboreal, deciduous, that's the word, deciduous trees. And then I had an area down here that is very jungle, so I used a lot of different types of trees, but palms and large trees and bushes and all kinds of stuff to make it look more jungly. So so we got that done. I also went back and the marshy areas, I put some marsh grass in just to kind of spice it up a little. I put some grass in this big tundra area because it was looking kind of boring in there, so I needed to get some type of texture in there. So I put the grass here, and I should have put some grass here and I forgot, so we'll go and do that now. You guys get to see that. Isn't that fun and exciting? So I've got this marshy grass here, and we're just gonna make it I select it, yeah, make it the right size here. Where are you going? Find this on here. Hello. There we go. Alright, we're just going to paint some of this around. I don't think that is big enough. Make it a little bigger. That looks a little better, I think. So we just need to kind of give the impression of marshy grass in here. We don't need to go nuts with it. And it's set, the placement rate is pretty low, so it's not really thick. We just want to give the impression that we've got some marsh down here and give this a little texture. We're not going to be zoomed in this far with it, but when we're zoomed out, it'll give it a little bit of flavor. So, and you can see this doesn't take a terribly long time, and we'll do some cleanup here in a minute. I know you guys are seeing the little overlaps I've got on some of these, but don't worry, we'll clean that up. So we'll just go to the eraser. Ooh, brush size too big. Don't want it that big. Everywhere that we've kind of gone over the bounds, we'll just get it out. And it doesn't matter, because of the way the brush paints things on, and these paint brushes are set, you sometimes get big, you know, I'm aiming just here, but it may take out all this. It's fine, chat. Don't worry about it. It's fine. All right, so we can back out, and then we've got some grass there. I went back in and did quite a bit of work here because, well, quite a few things that I did. One is I kind of raised some land back in here because it was looking a little too flat and unnatural. I mean, it's supposed to be a little unnatural, but it was sticking out way too much. I blended the colors a little better, and I also kind of brought some stuff out here so it looks kind of like it blew out chunks of land and just ripped through the land. Over here you can see where I put smaller trees in because this forest is just starting to grow back after it's been flattened by this explosion. So it's starting to grow back in here, but these are going to be young trees. We've got a bunch of trees and mountains going on here. So another thing I did with the mountains too, to kind of help make them a little less boring, is I put different size mountains after we got done. I went back through and put in some different sized mountains to kind of blend it more and thicken things out, and I'm probably going to do a little more of that while we're here. So we're going to go back to our mountains and get where's my int mountain? Which one is it? Which one is it, chat? No, it's just fine. I've got it, chat. Pretty sure it's that one. Anyway, so we'll get a little bit bigger here and just put we'll dot around some bigger mountains, and we can go pretty big. And we'll just play with the sizes and put some things around because it starts thickening up the mountain ranges to fill these in. So we'll go on both sides. We'll go bigger than what's there, and we'll go smaller, put some smaller hills and stuff in. It just adds a little visual interest to it. And it doesn't have to be horribly complicated. And you don't have to spend a ton of time doing this. And depending on how much you want to dig into your map, you don't necessarily need to do this, but I just find it helps to thicken the mountain ranges out a little bit and make them a little more interesting. Also, if you're going to leave the colors like this, the nice thing about these penciled ones is that they keep the colors that are around them. So you can see as I'm plopping them down here, they are keeping the colors and blending back into the mountains around them. So you don't have to worry about things getting really out of whack there. I'll put a few little hills out here. Maybe on this side. Let's get a bigger mountain back in there. Here, let's put a nice big in there. All right, so now we want to keep doing this across. We've got some really big mountains here, so we'll put some big mountains in the mountain ranges. Because these really big mountains can also be, you know, good landmarks and good places for some adventures to take place. So don't be afraid to go, you know, just kind of go nuts with it. And don't think too much about it. You want... I find it's very helpful to just kind of place a bunch of things and then stand back and look at it and say, oh, this kind of looks like this, and this could be an adventure for this. And this looks pretty cool. Let's make an adventure there. So, you know, do some experimenting and kind of let the map tell you where the adventures are. That works not only for like mountains and trees and stuff, but also for coastlines. As you're building coastlines and cutting things away, and building things up, you know, a lot of times your handles slip, but then it becomes some cool thing for the adventure, and you can kind of envision a lot of really neat things happening there. So let's see here. Let's come up here with the little ones bit. You see, I'm not doing a lot with this, but it's just kind of thickening the mountains out, making them a little more natural, I guess. I mean, we're not going for hyper realistic here, but it does help to have some visual interest to the map. So I'm just going through, and I know I've hit some of these mountain ranges already, but I'm just kind of doing what I think, you know, where things look a little sparse. I'm just adding some little mountains in, or a big mountain here and there, just to, and I'm just doing it by eye where I think things need a little more oomph. Really big one right there. Oh, that's just a huge mountain in the middle of that range, huh? Cool. So, I think we got to do something with this area down here because it's pretty bleh. And oh, need to work the mountains up here a little bit because this area is a little boring. Looks a little better, I think. So I kind of did the same thing with the trees. I went in and mixed in some larger and smaller trees after I got the basic clumps done, and that just kind of helps break up the monotony of those forests a bit. So this is a good technique to use on a lot of these different things, the mountains, the trees, all that stuff. I think anyway, it helps to just make your maps a little more visually interesting, and that's the whole reason really you're wanting to do these maps anyway. If I didn't want them visually interesting, I'd just get, you know, some graph paper and a pencil, which is certainly a valid way to do it. But boy, I would hate to have to write this all out by hand. It would make me crazy, honestly. Okay, so there's that. This one's a little sparse and boring. We don't want boring. No, we do not. So I don't know about you guys, but this is one of my favorite parts of the world building, is just doing the map, because then I can step back and write all kinds of stories just based on the stuff that came out during the map building. And I'm not being intentional about a lot of this stuff. I'm just randomly putting things there, except for this area with the Skull Lake, because I already had kind of a story So I knew I wanted this somewhere, this blasted area. But other than that, the whole world, I just let it generate. I cut in some random harbors and things just because I thought it'd be cool to have some inlets and stuff like that. I did some raised up some little weird islands and stuff here and there, and then randomly put mountains and rivers and trees and things like that. And it kind of, I think, does a lot to build up adventure, because I'm already starting to see other places where cool stories can kind of come up. Like there's, you know, this is all blocked off by mountains here, so there's this kingdom that's only accessible by water routes, and they grow to be a really powerful trading kingdom, but they're very kind of xenophobic, and they don't like other people, so they build up huge defenses around their coastline and try to keep people out. I just think that's, you know, those kind of things, and that's not something I had thought about before making the map. It was something I thought about after I looked at the map and said, oh, this could be kind of interesting. So don't be afraid to let your map tell you stories. Don't think you have to have all the stories made before your map. In fact, I find it often works better the other way. So we're going to put a lot of mountain down here. It's going to be a lot of thick mountains. Because honestly, you know, kind of Arctic wasteland, there can be adventure down here, but we don't want too much. We don't want to spend too much time on the geography here. At least I don't. Maybe you do, but, you know, you do you, right? But we are going to have a lot of mountain here. And then we're going to go put in some little points of interest along the map, too. So don't worry, more details to come. We're not just going to plop rocks all day. I promise. Well, this is really kind of a turning into a rocky wasteland here, isn't it? The other kind of cool thing when you're doing mountains is to just leave some paths open, because something like this could be this secret isolated thing, and then maybe we put another huge mountain up here so you can't get past this, but you want to get into it because there's something really cool back here. I don't know what that is yet, but you know, I mean, it would have to be really cool, wouldn't it? So there's kind of this highlighted area on the map that you really have to come around here to get to. And why is it important that you come around here? Well, I don't know yet. Okay, so I think that looks sufficiently harsh. And we can always come back and put detail into other parts of the world too as we flesh it out. As I said, this is going to be our main area that we're going to start with. This is our sword coast, if you will. So this is kind of where we're going to flesh out first with cities and stories and all that stuff. And my campaign is actually going to be taking place kind of in this area and a bit down here. So I'm not going to worry terribly much about all the details on all the other places. We'll get to those as we get to those, right? We don't have to worry about them all at once. So a couple other things I want to do real quick before we end the video. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the paintbrush for the land. Now I told you that the mountains are all taken on the background colors because they are their style of symbol is a see-through symbol, so it can take on the colors. Now I like having the snow-capped mountains in the north and south here, but the rest of the mountains I personally don't like them all blended into the background there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to we're going to pick a color. I'm picking this gray color here, and I may want to do a different one, but we'll see. I'm going to turn off everything but mountains on the filter, and I'm going to go fill, and boom, all the mountains are filled with that color. That's not the best color, so let's try that brown. The opacity needs to be set up. That's my problem. There we go. All right, now, so let's go back to maybe the gray is better. Yeah. We'll experiment a little bit here. Let me fill them all with this. Drop my opacity down a bit because that was gray was a bit harsh. That's a little better. All right, so you can see it just went and filled in all the mountains, so they stick out a little bit. However, I kind of still want the white mountains down here, so we just go back and we paint those individually. Instead of doing a fill, we just paint these areas. Just want those mountains white. And some up here. So that's how we do that. Now, you may not want to have all your mountains the same color, and that's perfectly fine. It's your map, you do you. But this is my preference. All right, so we're gonna do. I mean, I'm happy with this for now. Like I said, we'll come back and do more detail as we start fleshing out the stories and stuff. But we are at the point of general idea, so we're going to save this and we're going to export it. And we're actually going to export two different things here. So we're going to choose. There's a lot of things you can do. First, we're going to choose normal. We don't have a trace image in here, so we don't need to export it. That's if you put a background image in and traced over it. You can do that kind of stuff. Really cool, fun, yay. But what we want to do is just export this as a PNG. So we're going to go into, I've got a maps folder, and I've already done this, but we'll redo it. So I'm just going to comb bar PNG. It's exporting the image, and this is a 4K image, and you see it exported it that quick. So now I've got just this as a PNG. Now we need to export another set of maps, and this is going to be important for when we're doing our overlays, and we'll go into that next time, but I want to show you how to do this. So you go into the multiplane, and you say OK, and you give it the so I give it the Cohen bar multi and save it, and it'll put these out as different layers. What you get is the water layer, the landmass layer, so it doesn't have the water, all the symbols, trees and grass and the whatnots, and a grid, because you can put a grid overlay in here. So there's no grid. We don't have to worry about that. We're not really worried about the symbols in the water. What we're looking for is this bit right here. And the reason we're looking for that bit is because it's going to be much easier to select all the landmass if there's no water here and that's all just transparent. It makes it much easier when we go into GIMP to just get all the landmass selected. So that's the reason we did that. And we'll go into details about that in the next video. But that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did and you want to support this and like to see more, please hit the like button so I know that you're enjoying these things. If you have any ideas for the show, or if you have any suggestions for what we're doing here, please put them in the comments. Love to hear them. We're going to go into more of the world building, story writing pretty soon, don't worry, but we want to get through some things with the maps first, because we're actually going to pull these maps in and use them as the basis for a lot of the story writing. So we will get there, I promise. Please make sure that you subscribe and ding the bell so you know when these things go up and get notified. Also, follow us on all the other social media channels and join Worlds Together live on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. We will be having lots of fun discussions, and we'd love to have you there. So make sure you mash all the buttons and ding all the bells: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. And until next time, build on.